wanted to talk to you a little bit about changing your thoughts and changing your life. I've been giving descriptions about trauma, the healing from trauma, how the body remembers, how you store this on a psychic level. And really, I want to keep emphasizing that breaking free from trauma is the ultimate goal for anyone. See, it all starts for all of us as a story at the very beginning of our lives. All the messages that we receive about whether we're lovable or worthy or desirous or intelligent or important or valued, when we start from the beginning of our lives and we don't receive those messages and we don't clearly grow up feeling that sense of self-esteem and self-worth, then trauma keeps repeating itself throughout our life. And it's a reminder that I don't deserve, that I'm not worthy. And it keeps that lie alive. By getting into unhealthy relationships or when traumatic events happen, whether it's natural or otherwise, some other catastrophic event or being assaulted or attacked, then you keep remembering this identity of I'm not deserving, I'm not worthy. And I think that's probably the hardest thing for people to separate from, is separate their identity from the actual trauma. I've talked a little bit about starting to identify the pain and where it comes from and how important grieving is. So I want to go back to that point to recall. The grieving process is very natural. Even if you don't want to, it starts to happen. You bargain with the trauma. You think, this is not possible. This couldn't have happened. Why did it happen to me? I don't know. I don't want to remember this. I want to forget about it. This is not important to me. And so you start to bargain. You do this bargaining with the trauma. And it doesn't work because the trauma has a long-lasting effect. It's so powerful. It keeps coming back and reminding you, yeah, this did happen and it's not going away. So after you're done bargaining, you might get angry with the trauma. You might be, I can't believe this happened to me. Where was my family? Why didn't anybody protect me? Why wasn't I safe? Whatever your trauma was, why didn't other people come and help me? Why wasn't I rescued? Why didn't I matter? Why didn't anybody see what was going on? Why wasn't I safe? And you start asking those questions, and maybe you're angry about these events. Maybe you're starting to feel sad and hurt and resentful. The resentment is the hardest thing to let go of in many ways because you're the one keeping that going. See, once the trauma happens and the dust settles, you're the one living with it. Usually your perpetrators are long gone. Your perpetrator could be a typhoon. You can't argue with the typhoon. Why did you come? Why did you pick me? Why now? Right? But yet it feels like a perpetrator. It's this ghost in your life that comes and takes up space with you, and you see and you feel in your experience, but there's no one to fight with. There's no resolution there. It's a little different when it's sexual, physical, or emotional abuse that you endured at the hands of a loved one or someone that you knew, or even a stranger, because now you have a person to identify as the guilty party that's inflicted this pain on you. And so your grief may turn into anger, or your anger may turn into grief, but it may set up shop in your life where all you feel is the grief and the anger, and that's when the resentment comes. And the resentment lingers because it's, I didn't deserve this, this shouldn't have happened to me, why didn't this happen to somebody else, or why does everybody else walk through life scot-free and I'm the one that keeps having these bad things happen to you? Well, I want you to know bad things happen to good people every day. And it's not because you chose it, and it's not because you were looking for it. It's just the reality of the human condition. There are good people, there are bad people, there are great experiences in life, and there's horrific experiences in life. And as long as we're human beings, we are going to have a mixture of all of those things. So take the power out of the idea that why me? I've talked about this, and I will always talk about how why me is such a crippling dynamic that happens. The minute you hear why me, your soul is asking you to break free from this identity that is limiting you. You are not supposed to be limited on this earth because a traumatic thing happened to you. As I've talked about and will continue to talk about, is you're supposed to break free from the trauma and find out what you're made of. Find your resiliency. find your honor, and find the depth and find the courage inside of you to keep moving forward. When you have these experiences and you start to tell yourself, I am the trauma, you will say things like, I'm not good enough, I'm not deserving, I'm not loving. As soon as you hear that language, there's some resentment attached to that, because you do resent the idea that you've somehow been altered because of the trauma. Like, had this not happened to me, would I really have this self-esteem issue? No, probably not. And you probably resent that. But when you hear these negative self-limiting beliefs, it is time to stop and pause right there. That is the thing that has to break. That's the pattern that has to break to release you from the pain of the trauma. You can grieve and cry and sob. You can be pillows. You can scream and do all of that. And you should do all of that every time that you re-experience that trauma. And then as it's happening, you should speak tenderly and lovingly to the spirit that is inside of you, to the essence of who you are, as if it is a child being born for the first time. And you should speak to it and say, I love you. Despite this labor pain, despite the angst and the pain and the suffering that you're going to and bringing through with this trauma, I love you. I care about you. You deserve to be listened to. You deserve to be heard. This is a practical tool for you to use when you're in the midst of experiencing trauma, when you are starting to remember trauma, when you're having flashbacks, or when you're just stuck in anger and hurt and resentment. And you hear all that negative language about yourself, you're not going to make it, you don't deserve, you're never going to have a good relationship, nobody's ever going to care about you, nobody's going to ever love you the way I loved you, and all of that nonsense and all of that noise, that's the child inside of you is trying to get rebirthed. It's the inner child saying, I am done, this feels terrible, I want to break free from this, and I need a loving spirit and energy to guide me through. The problem with trauma and us feeling victimized is we're waiting for someone else to rescue you. You are your own savior. You are the only one that knows how horrible that experience was for you, and what you need to change and heal and get better is inside of you. So you are the white knight on the white horse, charging forward to save that child. You have to take on that role of the hero in the story of your life. And you do that by using that language. Even if you're so angry with yourself right now and your self-esteem is so shattered that you're calling yourself names, you're saying you're stupid or you're ugly or you're fat or you're unworthy or undeserving or all of this is your fault. As soon as all of that language comes forward, I want you to hear the savior inside of you coming forward to say, I love you anyways. I love you despite. I know you before this experience happened to you. You were born beautifully, perfect, whole, precious, and free and deserving of everything that life has to offer you and to bring you. So listen to that deeper knowing and that intuitive part of you that we tune out, especially when you're traumatized. Your trauma is just saying, wake up. Love me anyways. Love me better than I was loved. Loved me more than anyone ever knew how to love me. Love me the way that you've always wanted to be loved. Be the parent to you that you always needed, that you always wanted. Be that ideal. You have that inside of you. We all do. In order to do that, you do have to separate from the trauma. So when you've talked about it and you've journaled and you've written and you're grieving and you're angry and you're going through this experience and hopefully inviting a witness, whether that's a pastor or a friend or a therapist, I highly recommend a therapist to walk through trauma, especially if you have many, many traumas over many years and chronic trauma like that. I really recommend that you do the work with a therapist. But if you choose not to, hear this now. Hear my voice saying to you, you have what's inside of you to walk through this. No matter what horrific human experience you have, you equally have the ability to heal and have resiliency through it. Not only heal, but to thrive, to go beyond the trauma and become more than you ever imagined you could be. I often think about the things that have happened to me, and sometimes I'm stunned. Sometimes I'm in awe going, you really got through that? You really survived that? you really still feel good about yourself and okay about yourself despite all these terrible things that have happened to you. And I'm amazed today. When it was happening to me, I didn't feel amazed, I didn't feel thrilled, and I wasn't so happy about it. But as I allowed myself and gave myself permission to cry and to grieve and to be angry and to tell the story over and over again, and to listen to the negative self-talk and to start to confront that, that's when it began to change. Your job is to change the negative self-talk and the limiting beliefs by not allowing them. Every single time you hear it, you have to stop it. I can remember yelling inside my own head going, Gina, enough is enough. And I want you to practice that. When you hear yourself, oh my God, you're so dumb. Oh, of course you forgot again. Oh, you messed that up so bad. Oh, everybody's going to find out you're a phony. I want you to hear inside yourself, enough is enough. These things are not true about me. These are things that I've carried around for so long. You must be exhausted from carrying them. And it's the only reason the trauma is still alive in you. If you let go of that and only speak to yourself with words of kindness, love, and compassion, I guarantee you all of that negative experience will start to fade in the background of your life, in the rearview mirror where it belongs. Your trauma is not meant to be carried forward with you from relationship to relationship and opportunity to opportunity. It's meant to be left behind you. When it showed up in your life, it was there to teach you, to find a deeper meaning of life, and oftentimes to find a purpose. I did not know when I got cancer that my purpose was to use my voice to express the very things that I'm expressing to you. I had done public speaking as a therapist, but the primary part of my job was in therapy, in a room, one person at a time, behind the scenes where nobody knew, nobody could see me, and nobody could hear my voice. It was literally when I got cancer that this awareness came to me. Stop being silent. Stop hiding your superpower. Your emotional perception and your intuition is your superpower. Guess what? It's not just my superpower. It's your superpower. I've tuned in so acutely to it, my intuition. The only reason I'm sitting here sharing these words with you that will be on a video, that will be part of my book, is because I had the experience of trauma. And I came from it going, my life is too valuable. I can either choose to die or I can choose to live. I want you in this moment to make that choice. Not because cancer comes to you, not because some catastrophic event is going to happen or someone perpetuates a crime towards you, but because you're hearing my voice right now say to you, don't wait until you think your life is over to start living it. And you cannot do that carrying your trauma around with you. But you can do it by telling yourself, I deserve to live and I deserve to give expression to all of this that is inside of me that's been dying to get out. What is inside of you that's been dying to get out? That's the next step for you to explore.